What's up? What up? What's up? Remember that? What's up? What's up?
That commercial in the movie Ant-Man, the guy brings it back up, and nobody gets it.
Nope.
Everybody did to him what everybody's doing to us.
Right. Yes, it's very generational,
Yeah.
you know. And my wife, she always tells me when I'll do stuff like that. She was like, "Man, you're at the dad joke stage.
Yeah.
Like you really need to just really know your audience and stuff." And some of the things we'll say, and she's like, "Nah."
Sometimes it's funny
Yes,
for you.
right. And that's why I said.
Sometimes you gotta tell a joke for yourself.
And that's why I said I laughed, and that was soothing enough. That was affirming enough. It made me laugh.
Yeah.
And so,
What does it feel like to be in late September?
Oh.
I know in Orlando, we don't get, the rest of the country's already feeling fallish.
Yeah.
We'll get our feelings of fallish in
Yeah.
November, but everything has the colors.
Yes, it has the colors. I mean, we don't really have colors per se because everything's always beautiful, except for.
But I mean, the stores are decorating with the
Oh
oranges.
man, yeah, and that's the thing. Fall, I just feel like fall, September, late September, October, through the rest of the year, man, is very, very beautiful.
Yeah.
I mean, because everything has the feel of the seasons. You can get you some good coffee flavors and stuff, man. And so, I love fall in Orlando. Once we get late September, man, it is just like cruising, you know. And so I love it. And Brent, here's the thing: you enjoy the beauty of the fall, but you can do it and be outside, and it's extremely comfortable.
Yeah.
And with no trench coats, big boots,
No.
no
here.
no snow shovels and all of that stuff, man. And so I love it. All right, so when does it shift for you when it's like, okay, I'm in the fall, like is there any ritual or tradition or just something or a date that stands out? You're like, we're in fall of Orlando.
And I can go to a Friday night football game and not roast.
Yeah,
I mean, when I can show up in jeans and a t-shirt.
Yeah, man.
Because it's shorts, t-shirt, and bring a fan, and it's bad.
Yeah.
So when I can go to a Friday night football game and actually wear a pair of jeans, I'm like, man, I need to get me a pumpkin spice latte. So that's kind of like my brain goes, okay, now it's time.
Now it's time. Yeah. It is, man.
It's hard to drink that and be sweating at the same time.
Yeah, we always have them inside when we're drinking now. Inside right after an event or we just got off the stage doing something, then we'll grab some coffee. But no, you're not drinking much coffee. You're not walking in Disney Springs.
No.
With a pumpkin spice latte.
Nope.
Before late September.
Yep.
And if you are. You're different. You're different. You're not from
bad
around.
different.
Yeah,
You're just
it's
different.
You're not from around these parts.
No.
And,
You're special in your own way.
You're special in your own way. And Well, man, I love this time of year. I know later on, man, we will have some episodes where we kind of talk about the holidays, and that's always a fun time of just kind of
not Halloween because
we don't.
We dress up and get candy, but we don't celebrate.
Yeah. Okay.
Have you seen the video where they go? You've seen it where they go? We dress up. We're Christians. We dress up and we get candy, but we don't celebrate Halloween. Yeah. And then it goes to the guy who goes, "That's what Halloween is."
Yes. Listen, I mean, hey, okay. We actually, which was really bad. I'm just gonna tell my sins and ask for forgiveness. I've already asked for forgiveness. But when we were in Atlanta and the boys were little, and we were up in this really nice, affluent area, they gave out there was this neighborhood. They gave out full Snickers,
rich people candy.
Yes, full Snickers bars and full Twix bars, and so how we knew this was because prior to Halloween, my youngest Cameron, they had their little Halloween deal, and so certain friends' parents brought in the candy, and so. I guess Cameron talked to his buddy named Brady. I'll never forget his buddy Brady. And Brady's like, yeah, this is candy that we're going to be giving out. He just he's a little kid. He's just he's not bragging, but it's like, this is the candy that we're giving out, Here, and I knew where Brady lived. And so Cameron comes home. I was like, hey, dude, who gave out these full Snickers bars and Twix bars? He's like, this Brady, Dad, and that's what they give out in their neighborhood. So I said, hey guys,
that's the neighborhood we go into.
We're going to. And so we get in the car, we pick up one of his buddies, and by the way, best Halloween costume ever. His buddy Ethan has a box of the little cereal minis around him with like a necklace, and he has knives in all of them. I said, what are you? He says, I'm a serial killer. And so I was like, Brady, please. I mean, not Brady, but Ethan. I said,
he's a serial killer.
So he has knives in cereal boxes. He's killing the box.
I love it. That's so creative.
I was like, I don't know whether to laugh or be concerned. And so, but anyway, we go to this neighborhood, Brent, and I'm just telling you, bro.
Score.
It was a different level of gathering of candy. We won't say celebrating Halloween, but it was a different level.
Getting candy.
So anyway, I don't know why I brought that up.
We're still a month away. But here's the thing. In October, that brings up a different thing.
Yeah.
In October, I do start eating. I'll get Halloween candy.
Yeah.
And with the kids. And,
man. So anyway, but here we are.
Here we be. We're in the final episode.
Man, I can't believe it.
Moment series.
Yeah. And
we've chosen for our final episode
on purpose.
Yep. We don't fake it till we make it. Actually, some days we do. But anyways, this is to talk about these moments of transition. And I'm gonna set it up, and then I'm gonna kick it to you for the text. But it's the moments of transition. There are going to be moments in our lives where we inevitably transition from one chapter or season to another. High school to college, college to being a young adult and adulting. Getting married is a big transition. Getting your first job is a big transition. Becoming a parent is a big transition.
Absolutely.
Having your grown kids get married.
Oh, brother, that's the one. We
transition.
We actually have to do a session on that.
Yeah.
I mean, an episode on that. That's a
big transition.
Yeah, big transition.
So there will be seasons. And I would say probably there's going to be at least 5, if not 7, key transitions in everybody's life.
Yep.
That can be either very healthy moments that define us in a healthy and godly way, or not.
Yeah.
And so we're going to look at one of those in Scripture today.
Yeah, man. And one that is very, very significant in a lot of ways, because you can look at it from those transitions that you just spoke of, or even just in leadership transition, succession plans and all of that. And that is the transition from Moses to Joshua, specifically that we'll see in that one text when it really happened in Deuteronomy 34 in verse number 9, where, okay, now here Moses he's
dead. So it better be transitioning now.
Dead, right? So and what that looked like, and how we also should kind of approach and understand what the significance and the pivotal moments of transition. How should we prepare for? Because this moment that took place in Deuteronomy 34. Brent, I mean, you can see it being set up in Numbers 13.
Oh, yeah.
You
see it being set up in Exodus.
Exactly.
17.
Yeah, exactly.
There was a long runway.
It was. It wasn't just something that you just kind of did. Now, there are some transitions that can be abrupt or, right now, but really healthy transitions. I believe you want to be intentional about the process, and it needs to kind of be some time that takes place. But just a little context, here now, the servant of the Lord, Moses, he's dead. And when you really open up chapter 34, Deuteronomy, it is this moment where Moses gets to stand in Mount Nebo. And he gets to see the vision of the promised land, and the Lord really shows Moses, even though Moses is not going to have an opportunity to physically walk into the promised land or take the children of Israel into the promised land. The Lord takes him to this place, and this is one of the most beautiful places that I love, that we get a chance to even take our students.
401.
Yeah, man. I mean, that we actually stand in Mount Nebo. When you read the text and then you see it physically, it's like, oh oh, you see here, he's really having an opportunity to see Moses, that is, to see the promise, even though.
And by the way, with his crystal clear vision as you or I would see.
Yeah.
Or somebody with great eyesight. Because even though he was 120 years old, the Bible tells us that his eyes were not dim, nor his natural figure diminished. In other words, he could see clearly.
Yeah. And just as a side note, what I love is that in this moment of transition, Moses was honored, and because he was referred to as the servant of the Lord. And what I love is I wrote down, I was like, man, at the end, Moses wasn't the prince of Egypt. He wasn't a murderer of an Egyptian. He wasn't the shepherd in the wilderness or the spokesman for a nation, or a miracle worker, or prophet, or a man who saw the place of God's glory. He was known in this moment as just a servant of God. Now, his life, he was, he experienced a lot of things, but in this final moment, there was this moment where he got a chance to see the promised land, crystal clear, 120, but then he was referred to as a servant of God. And I love that beginning point of knowing how, as Moses is about to die, he's at least honored in that transition.
Yeah. They wept for 30 days over him.
Yeah, they did. But then we get to verse number 9. And in verse number 9, it just simply says this: Joshua, son of Nun, was filled with the spirit of wisdom because Moses had laid his hands on him. So the Israelites obeyed him and did as the Lord had commanded Moses. It says, no prophet has arisen again in Israel like Moses. And so we know, if we go back to Numbers 13, because the truth of the matter is, one of the things I think is so interesting about this transition between Moses and Joshua was Joshua really wasn't the one that Moses really identified initially. This was the Lord really kind of identified Joshua as the one who would take the children of Israel in the promised land. But we know that in Numbers 13 really kind of explains how the Lord brought the children of Israel through the wilderness, right? And we know that there were 12 spies that were sent out, to really kind of spy out the land of Canaan, and they really were called at that moment. Those 12 spies represented 12 tribes, and they were really called. Their purpose was to just really evaluate and to know kind of what kind of land is this right here, and then bring the report back. They were supposed to bring the report back to Moses to let him know, hey, what does it look like? Like, is it a land that produces a lot of harvest and fruit, or is it a land that's barren and dry? Is this a place that we need to, actually to possess this particular land? And so, we know that the spies, they all came back and reported to Moses and Aaron, and everybody didn't have, the most favorable of reports. 10. And, 10 out of 12, came back, and they were kind of Debbie Downers. They're a little negative Nancy.
How many of the tribes of Israel would end up one day being scattered? Now, 10. That...
Note that you see the consequence. There's consequence of that, and you see the connection of that, and so out of those, and here they're out there for 40 days, bro. And after 40 days, they come back, and it was only it was really only 2, Joshua being one, that really kind of said, hey, this is a land flowing with milk and honey. And so now we see from Numbers kind of there is this rise up, if you will, or this acknowledgement of seeing here in this moment where Joshua has a little bit of leadership foresight, right? And so here in Numbers, we see that there's foresight that Joshua was able to even exemplify as a leader, even before we get here to Deuteronomy 34. And so we're here in Deuteronomy 34, and Joshua now is becoming the leader of Israel. And I think it's important to note, Brent, as we really kind of look at the process in which the Lord was preparing Joshua for this moment. A couple things. Number one, he gave Joshua had an opportunity to lead before he was the leader. And in this moment here in Numbers 13, I think is so important is he had an opportunity as he's, being sent out to spy the land. He has an opportunity to lead before he truly becomes a leader. And I think when I think about moments of transition, and I'll use this from the context of if you're in your local church and you're transitioning from one place to another, maybe a youth pastor to a lead pastor. I think about my own life, Brent, prior to my time coming to SLU, there was this process that I was a part of as I was supposed to transition and be the successor to my pastor in my local church. And there was some conversation about that. But I was given opportunities to lead before I became the leader. And I think it was very, very pivotal in my own leadership journey, because here, like Joshua in this moment, you're able to watch the leader. You're able to submit to the leader. Here, Joshua has to come back to Aaron and Moses and report. That's that process of you watching, but you also submit to the leader. So Joshua in this process, it wasn't like, we jump here into verse 9 of Deuteronomy 34 and Joshua, the Lord just says, okay, let me see, out of all the people here, even though we got 10 of the 12 tribes that just didn't do right, but out of all the people here, I think I'm just going to choose Joshua. No, because the Bible is very, very clear that that Joshua was God's man. And so it is one, finding those moments in your life where you are able, when you prepare for transition, where you can lead even before you become the leader. Yeah. But then two, those moments where you can walk alongside with the leader to get a sense of the leader's heart. And then three, you take the mantle of leadership. And I think you see this process here of transition. And so Joshua was here now taking the mantle and taking the people into the promised land, because one, it was his time. Two, he had spent some time with Moses and kind of walked alongside and was able to kind of get a sense of who he was as a leader. But then number three, he had opportunities himself. Yeah. In the place of influence he has, to be able to lead himself. Yeah. And so
several of them.
Absolutely. Several opportunities. So, and then I think there's so many things that we can talk about here, with this, because I think it's important that, even though people loved and revered, because they wept over the death of Moses, but God didn't leave the people without a leader, and when God's in the midst of the transition, he'll never leave the people without the right leader. Yep. And so I love this story here and this moment here in Deuteronomy 34, as Moses now he's dead. There's the weeping that took place, but now after the weeping that takes place in verse number 8, now it's time for the transition. Yeah. And so there is this very succinct process of transition, and it really got us, as we were talking about this whole idea of transition, it got me to even thinking about, man, in all of our lives, we are going to experience some level of transition. And the question is, one, how intentional are we in the preparation process of the transition? And I think that's so very important there in this particular moment.
Yeah, I think it's worth identifying a handful of opportunities to lead before you were the leader. There's one that happens in Exodus 17, the first, where Joshua is commissioned by Moses to go down and to fight in the valley against the Amalekites. And that's that great text where Aaron and Ur would hold Moses' arms up, held the staff in his hands towards the heaven, made or petitioned God on behalf of Joshua and the army below. And of course, every time that Moses' hands would lower, they would experience defeat, and every time they were lifted, they would experience victory. And after that day, Joshua comes back and he does two things. He goes, Moses goes, we're going to write this down in a book. not the Bible, but a book.
Yeah.
And then just a history of what's happening in their wanderings. And then number 2, we're going to build an altar that says, "The Lord is my banner." We're going to give credit where credit is due. So that's one event.
Yeah.
Like, there was a chance to lead and in that chance, I think that what Moses taught Joshua is, you better be prone to action. You better be prone to engagement. You better be ready to act. If you're going to be a leader, if you're going to transition well, if you're going to transition into an opportunity, you better be willing to act. And then there's this simple idea, sacredly simple idea, of doing life together. When Moses went up the mountain to receive a word from God that would be the 10 Commandments, nobody went with him.
Yeah.
No, Aaron and Hur stayed behind.
Yeah.
In fact, Aaron and Hur lost their ever-loving mind and built a golden, thing for people to worship.
Yeah.
But no general, no army, but we do know Joshua
was with him, right?
Didn't go the whole way, probably. But it was Joshua on the way back down that said to Moses, it sounds like the noise of war in the camp. In other words, all this worship and commotion over this false idol that had been created, it sounds like the noise of war in the camp.
Yeah.
So Joshua was given a backstage pass to Moses' leadership. So I think that's another way to lead before you're the leader that Moses accomplished for Joshua. And then the third one is when they, there was, God had said, I'm done. I'm done with the people of Israel. Not going to hang out with you guys anymore. And then there was an agreement that was made. I'm summarizing a lot.
Yeah, sure.
In which God would still meet with Moses, but that tent would have to be set up outside of the encampment.
Yeah.
So there'd be a couple million people in the encampment, and Moses would set up a temporary tabernacle.
Yeah.
And the only person that went out there with him was Joshua.
Right.
Joshua would stand outside of the tent, and the Lord would come and meet with Moses in that tent face to face as a man meets with a friend. And then the fourth experience to lead before he was the leader is when he was one of the 12 spies that was sent out. So there was this roadmap, there was this runway, there was this series of preparation. And so that Joshua, and it tells us this at the beginning of Joshua, could be strong and courageous for the people, could lead them into this land. Now, what happened after that, we don't know, because the book of Judges is a train wreck.
Right.
I mean,
that's true. That is true.
If you had to give the book of Judges a theme, it would be everything goes from bad to worse.
And really fast.
Really fast, and it ends with every man doing what is right in his own eyes.
Exactly.
And so we don't know we know Joshua led well. We don't know what happened after Joshua.
Yeah.
Did Joshua not raise somebody else up to lead well? I don't know.
Yeah.
Did he do it, but somebody was disobedient? We see a lot of that in the Bible.
Yeah.
Was there just a calamity that caused there to be a cataclysmic shift in the nation of Israel? We don't know, but we know that this season of transition happened well, and we can have great confidence that it happened well because Joshua was prepared for the transition.
Exactly. Yeah. And so it is like taking what you just articulated. So it's like this threefold process, if I can be as practical and elementary, forgive me for being a little elementary, but it's almost like it's a 3-step process of transition, which is number 1, I do, and you watch, right? And so that is that experience that Joshua had initially, where he spent that time watching the leadership of Moses.
I don't want to correct.
Yeah. No, go ahead.
But I might flip it on its head.
Yeah.
You do,
and I'll watch. Okay, so that was going to be number 2.
Because the first thing that happened was in Exodus 17. I mean, you think about it. That's first true. Time we see Joshua step onto the scene, Moses is telling him to go kill people.
Yeah. Fair. Okay, so then, because that was going to be number 2 is, number 2, but we can't flip that. And so, you do and I watch, or
in watching over you, I'm protecting you.
Yes. And then you move into, so you do that, and then you move in, then you do and we do together, and then from you do and we do together to you do it and I move on. You know, as we know, Moses now dies, and now Joshua takes the lead and stuff. And so, yeah, so I see that, you know, from that standpoint of, hey, you do and I watch, or maybe there's moments I do and you watch, but understanding the process for purpose of conversation, process of that transition has to be those moments where there's tensional moments where the leader gets an opportunity to lead before they're called the leader, right? And I think that's a healthy principle or process of transition, because God, if you have to get the title before you execute the task, then
you're not really the leader.
You're not the leader, and maybe you won't even be prepared.
Yeah.
You know, if there hasn't been moments where I can watch over you as you go and kill someone, you know, I mean, then you may not, when it's time to stand up, you know. Now, you know, to your point, moving past Deuteronomy and Joshua, book of Joshua, as we move into Judges, that's great conversation. I love for us to just a side note to do some time on that. That'd be good. And but I think that's important. But just the process, Brent, of like, hey, when we approach transition in any area of our lives, are we intentional with the process?
Yeah. Or
are we reacting?
Yeah.
Because the transition is upon us.
Yeah.
And I think that's the difference between a healthy transition and an unhealthy transition.
Just some practical points on preparing for transition. Number one, you have to practice what you want to transition into.
Yeah.
And so we see all these episodes of Joshua practicing what it meant to be the leader, whether that was accompanying Moses up the mountain, whether it was fighting the Amalekites, whether it was spying out the land, whatever.
Yeah.
But there are these moments of practicing what you're preparing to become, or the season of transition you're preparing to go through. I think there's another aspect to this thing, and that is that you have to have a guide. You know what I mean? So if you you want to practice what you want to become, but you're going to need a guide to show you. And so Moses was a great teacher. He was a guide. He was a mentor. He was we wouldn't call him a father figure, because the Bible constantly says that Joshua was the son of none, and I think there's an emphasis there for us. But we would say that he was a teacher and a guide. And so you're going to need to practice. You're going to need a guide, and then you're going to need your own vision. What that looks like when you step into it. Yeah. And so if we were to step into Joshua chapter 1, you know, it just begins with this. After the death of Moses, the servant of the Lord, it came to pass that the Lord spoke to Joshua the son of Nun, Moses' assistant, saying, Moses, my servant, is dead. He's clarifying the transition. Now, therefore, arise, go over the Jordan, and you and all the people, to the land which I am giving them, the children of Israel, and every place that the sole of your foot will tread upon, I have given to you, as I said to Moses. For the wilderness and this Lebanon, as far as, from the wilderness and this Lebanon, as far as the great river, the river Euphrates, the land of the Hittites, and to the great sea, towards the going down of the sun, shall be your territory. In other words, he's outlining their nation. No man shall be able to stand before you all the days of your life. As I was with Moses, so I will be with you. I will not leave you nor forsake you. Now, here is where we see Joshua's vision come into play. This is who Joshua is supposed to be. There's no more Moses shifting. You, Joshua, be strong and courageous. For to this people you shall divide as an inheritance the land which I swore to their fathers to give them. That's Joshua's vision. So you got to practice it. You need a guide for it. And then you need your own vision when you step into it. And those are the three, I think, I don't know, ingredients
Yeah.
for preparing for transition.
Yeah, and then you also be reflective in that as well, because he also goes on, it says in verse 7, above all, be strong and very courageous to carefully observe the whole instructions my servant Moses commanded you. And so, hey, have your vision, but also make sure you reflect on the whole instruction and don't miss any steps, and so I think there's so much there, and I love that and agree. Hey, in this moment now in Joshua 1, here's your assignment.
Yeah, Moses had a different assignment.
Yeah, he did.
His ended at
Yeah,
Nemo.
yeah.
Yours begins here.
Right, exactly. And there are some things that you can learn. You have learned from Moses, but make sure that you are committed to this. Be strong and courageous to the assignment that you have as the leader. And so now there's no more weeping. There's no more, necessarily kind of holding on to, well, Moses did it. Because I think also a difficult part of transition, Brent, when you're stepping, at least from some of my experiences, when you're stepping into a place where someone else has been, how do you honor what is, but also make it your own?
Right.
And then also how do you make it your own, but also not lose the integrity of the whole, if that makes sense?
No, yeah, and so yeah, he has to honor that. But when he divides the inheritance of the land among the people, after that happens, they're going, yeah, Moses was the great servant of the Lord. But the land I live on, Joshua gave me.
Yeah, yeah.
He's the leader.
Yeah, man. And
whoever gave that land to you, you're going to look at as the leader. And so I think that the best way for people to then see you in that leadership light is to not be passive, but to execute the vision in such a way, with clarity and with confidence, not arrogance, with clarity and with confidence, so that people know, what's happening in and around my life right now is a result of that leader, not the one before him. And so you see that practice, you see that guide, you see that vision aspect all coming together to feed into a healthy, or to create a bridge, if you will, for a healthy, defining moment that is a transition. And
in that, you always have to walk through it being strong and courageous, and I think that's such an important statement of saying, hey, as you approach, be strong and courageous. Don't be insecure. Don't look in the rearview mirror, but just know, hey, these are your people. This is your moment and your time, and you're called to lead, steward it, and lead it well.
It's like that Winston Churchill quote. I felt like all of my life was but preparation for this moment. Yeah, man. And so, man, it's such a powerful moment and defining moment. One in which, Brent, honestly, I think if you've been in ministry, long enough, you've gone through several, transition of some, or at least one little transition, and if not, I could name several.
Yes. There are several coming to my mind as well. But if not, if you're in the beginning stages of that transition, that moment, I pray that you'll kind of take some time, for those who are listening, take some time to really just kind of go back and read this moment, and just kind of study Joshua and Moses in this process here leading into 31 of Deuteronomy, but also reflecting on and going over into Joshua 1 and seeing what that process looks like now that the handoff is taking place. Now you're stepping into that place of leadership. Yeah. Here is what God commands you to do and how he commands you to lead.
Let's edit something real quick, saying leading into 34.
What did I say?
31.
Did I say 34? Oh, sorry.
You said 31.
Oh, I meant 34. Sorry. I meant 34 into Joshua chapter 1. Yeah. So thank you. All right. Sorry. All right. One of the things I would say as, you're going through your own transition moment, that you reflect on things that we talked about and pray through it and read through it, all the moments leading into Deuteronomy 34, but also going into Joshua chapter 1, because, hey, we've already discussed those things leading up to 34 in Deuteronomy. But now as we walk into Joshua chapter 1, now it's your time to own the moment and be very present with what the Lord has placed before you as a leader.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Transition is inevitable. That's the last thing I'll say. It's inevitable. So you can either prepare for it or suffer from it.
That's good.
And I why not redeem the time and make the most of it?
Yeah. Well, this has been fun, brother.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but I've had a good time.
I've had a good time.
And it's been great. And man, I love what we get to do here at Student Leadership University and all the incredible things that are before us. And so, ladies and gentlemen, if you think about, I know many of you always are texting and asking, how can we pray for you? And so, man, you can pray for the events that are up and coming as we're doing some incredible things we'll mention later. But also, if you want to be a leader that continues to become a learner, we have some incredible books and resources we would love you to just deep dive into. We got a couple written by my brother here, man. We've talked about the life of the Apostle Paul, and there is an incredible resource that if you've not added to your library yet, but Moments to Midnight. Love that book. Great book.
Thank you.
Just on what does it look like to wander well as a pilgrim, wandering toward the heaven country. And then if you are like me and you're a steps guy, you like the steps, and you're looking for those 10 steps. There it is, to your best life. And not,
don't let the title fool you.
And this isn't no prosperity gospel book.
No.
Right? This is some very practical tools and nuggets, and I love the fact that even though you wrestle with the title because you didn't want people to misunderstand what the title was all about, but really honestly, this one, I'm in it right here. This one is just really great. Just connecting to that new normal. I think because you, correct me if I'm wrong, you wrote this. Was this during that little pandemic thing? Halfway through the pandemic, they asked us to go. They asked me to go. Hey, what would a Christian's best life look like? What is the best way to exist in light of this, and what would a new normal look like as we begin to emerge out of this pandemic? Yeah. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you. We love you, and we look forward to... Oh, there's one more. All right. Yes. Before you sign off. No, seriously, all jokes aside, man, as a youth pastor, I'm a youth pastor. I've always been a youth pastor at heart, and I'm always looking for good studies to take my students through. And we have one that is a great teen Bible study called the Philippians Study. And so, hey, listen. Boom. If you youth pastors, youth leaders, you need a cheat sheet, you don't have it, you don't know what you're going to do for the next 7 weeks, we got you covered. So there's so many great resources that we have. And so just check us out at our store at slulead.com. And we're just grateful for you. Now, what you were saying, I apologize for cutting you off.
Hey, cut me off anytime. I was just going to say goodbye.
Yeah. Well,
till we meet again.
Till we meet again.
Wander well, shine like stars.
Peace out.